Vaccine protesters taken out of New Hampshire's executive council meeting in handcuffs. And tonight, the state's governor is not happy. Good evening, everybody. I'm Paula Eben.
And I'm Anna Rodriguez. He is upset with protesters who interrupted this meeting for the second time in a month. And he's also furious with the council for rejecting millions of dollars in COVID funds. WBC's Lisa Hughes is back with us tonight. Lisa, this was a contentious meeting.
Yes, and that contention lasted. Anna and Paula. Governor Chris Sununu called the council's vote not to accept the money a, quote, total disservice to the constituents we serve, unquote. Protesters packed this meeting holding anti-vaccine signs. Last month, you may remember, the council actually had to call off a meeting when demonstrators got out of hand. Well, today, police arrested 9 protesters who were warned not to ignore or interrupt today's proceedings. Once that was resolved, the council voted 4-1 to reject $27 million in federal funding that would have been used to boost New Hampshire's vaccine effort. Governor Sununu called the decision reckless disregard.
I think a lot of folks just do not appreciate that these funding sources, these funding mechanisms, they don't just live in silos. It isn't just about funding about one thing, and if you don't approve it, it doesn't happen. It's a domino effect and a chain reaction effect across our entire healthcare system. And unfortunately, you know, the Executive Council didn't want to listen to any of that today, but it will have a very severe negative effect to our ability to continue to manage.
You definitely get the sense we've not heard the last of this. The 4 council members who voted against taking the federal money are all, like the governor, Republicans, and they essentially said the state doesn't need the money and that taking it might compel New Hampshire to follow federal guidelines, including vaccine mandates and quarantine rules. Paula?
Whenever he's willing to approve. I'll be in touch.
All right, should be starting any moment now.
All right, man. Thank you.
With the prosecutor. Yeah, I asked him again. Hey, you just come from the Sununu Youth Detention Center?
Oh, this guy?
He laughed. No.
You guys can take your hat off. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
This is a hat-on sit-in event. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No. Wow, man. Come on, guys.
All right, we'll resume the case of the state of New Hampshire versus Frank Staples. Mr. Staples, when we concluded the proceedings last time, you were on the witness stand. Yes, sir. So, why don't you please head back up? You're still under oath, sir. And with respect to your motions to dismiss.
I wanted to file it after my testimony. I don't know if that was the time to file it or not. Okay. I filed it before. You said it was on time. I don't know if we can wait until after my testimony. If that's the proper time, wouldn't be the proper time to file.
No, I just
Share the stream.
With respect to your motions to dismiss alleging procedural infirmities with respect to bringing the charges and bringing you to trial, those are denied.
And the prosecutor filing the initial complaints, and then this guy not signing on as an appearance until months after the arraignment, where Prosecutor O'Leary swore that he was here on this case on the arraignment day when he was not.
And Mr. Staples, to the extent that you want to move to dismiss at the conclusion of the case, you certainly have every right to do that.
Okay. And I did not submit this as, this was the videos that we watched, and these are the timestamps.
Any objection to those coming into evidence?
I won't have a limited amount of time to review. So, to the extent timestamps
video evidence is the best evidence. And so if there's anything in these timestamps that does not correlate with the videos, then obviously it's a typo or whatever, but this is all correlation of the video timestamps.
I think there's a couple of what one might characterize as arguments captured as part of a timestamp, and I would move to exclude those sections of the exhibit.
I would just say don't take them as arguments. If you would, these are, I'm doing the best I can here. We're on the candle at both ends. I'm in the middle of moving. I'm homeless right now, trying to deal with this case. And then they also keep trying to ram that 254 case down our throats. We're actually supposed to be doing the 254 case right now, 12:45. I got a notification last week that we're going to be doing that case at 12:45.
Okay, Mr. Staples, I'll accept those matters into evidence with the provisions.
Thank you, sir. And another piece of exhibit that I would like to get in, this was part of the discovery. This is a public statement made by Sununu about the arrests of that day.
Well, sir, technically, what's happening right now is you're on the witness stand.
Right, and I'm
to introduce something else after your testimony. I'll give you the chance to argue.
Well, I was trying to talk about this on the stand. I was actually talking about some of this stuff with the whole entrapment and how it goes all the way back to Sununu's house protests, which he actually mentions in his public statement about the arrests.
Well, let's address it in the context. So please take the witness.
Can I bring anything up there to help me remember stuff? Or, because I had no idea where I was. In my, where I left off, I don't want to know where I was.
Hang on. For the most of your testimony, you were presenting 2 hours and 35 minutes of video testimony. And then you were talking about he should know, and you said you definitely clapped. And then you were talking about you wanted.
I said I definitely clapped.
Yeah. And
When?
then you
What
were
I said?
talking about, I said, define that conduct.
Yes. Yes. So, thank you, sir. So, this was right before I got the warning from DeLuca, is when Sununu was talking about all these immigrants that were in the state and all this money, and people were asking how many immigrants are here in New Hampshire, and he was like, I don't know. And I said he should know. Because he should know. And that's a political statement. It wasn't meant to disrupt, and that's not even what I'm being charged with. But I did get a warning for that. Right? I got a warning for saying he should know, even though we saw in the video, there was all kinds of people making all kinds of comments throughout the whole thing. And clapping at various points. So it seems it's appropriate to clap when Sununu says it's okay to clap. Right? But when he doesn't think it's okay to clap, we're not allowed to clap. So then, from that point where I said that I would be asked to leave the room, or whatever, I honestly don't remember what he said. And I said, it's fine. And then another officer actually came over to try to say something to me. I said, he already talked to me about it. Okay? Leave me alone. I was the only one to get singled out that day for any sort of admonishment for a normal murmuring or exclamation of the events of that day. There were all kinds of people who said amen at various points. Some people said, we will be here. We'll keep coming back. None of them got warned. And none of them disrupted the meeting either. Nowhere was there a disruption or a pause in the meeting when I allegedly said any of these things, right? And I'm being charged with what? Saying, shut it down. The state has not provided any evidence that I said shut it down. This is probably closing stuff, so hold on. So after the initial warning that I got, probably, I don't know, within an hour or so, Megan Walsh came out and she stepped out randomly while the meeting was still going, and she gave a general warning to the crowd not to make any more disruptions, even though there had not been any disruptions, the meeting had not stopped. So she gave this blanket warning out to everyone, not a particular person. And that was to try to justify the arrest that they had been planning this whole time. What is it? I couldn't even hear.
Well, I'll give it away.
Yeah. So, what did I just say? I don't know why, so, yeah, I forget what I was saying. So the name launch warning, and so yeah, the May Walsh warning was just, it was not a lawful order, obviously. And the meeting continued, and we got to the point where they were talking about the 27 million, okay? And the plan for us was not to disrupt the meeting. The purpose was to still express ourselves as best we could without disrupting the meeting. And so how we were going to do that was to stand up and turn our backs to the executive council to let them know how many people supported or did not support this. And as we saw in the video, it was about 95% of the room stood up, turned their backs, and linked arms, quietly and silently. Okay? And while we were doing that, we could see in the video Sununu texting with the state police, and the state police doing their getting together before Teresa said amen, and before I allegedly said yeah. We were still standing, and the cops were getting ready to do something. They were getting ready to arrest us for having everyone stand up and turn our backs. They were going to call that a disruption. That's what they were going to do. But they didn't. They instead changed the charges because they knew if we arrest them too for standing up first, then we're going to have to arrest the whole room. And it wasn't a disruption. So we all had our backs turned, and Councilor Gaida started to push back on the acceptance of this money. What is it? Yeah.
Sorry. Ma'am. I'm sorry. I can't allow you to do that. Yeah. Sorry. Because I'll remove, you're here under special permission. Yes. Because of an accommodation being made to Mr. Staples. But you're not allowed to coach him from the table.
Well, she's supposed to be helping me remember stuff and stay on point. That's what you agreed to. She's helping me stay on point.
Your Honor, I apologize. I thought it was important to correct the person that was, to identify the correct person.
Yeah, but let's just establish.
Yes.
Sure, so I'm sorry, and it is what it is. So whoever it was, I don't know these people's names. Like they expect me to know who Provenza is and who all these people. I don't care. You guys aren't that important. So these executive council members, I don't know them by face. I don't even know them by name. So whoever it was,
Ma'am, take a seat. You're not allowed to.
she's not allowed to stand.
She's not allowed to stand and take video or still images
Why not? Where does it say that?
Mr. Staples,
Where does it say that in Rule
we
19?
just established that if you've been granted permission to record this event, you can do so from a fixed position in the courtroom, but I can't have people moving about the courtroom and taking still or video. You understand? Please go.
All right. So, the executive council member, whoever the hell it was, started to push back against the accepting of the money. And at that point is when everybody was like, oh wow, we're getting some support. The executive council listening to us. So let's show our support and we'll turn back around and take our seats. Okay? So that's what we did. We turned back around, sat down quietly, and there was further pushback on the acceptance of this money, and the crowd erupted. I wouldn't call it an eruption, but the crowd was happy, and some people said amen, and whatever else they said at that time. And maybe there's some clapping in the video. I put me clapping. The whole room was clapping, right? Sure. Yeah, I was clapping. We also clapped when counselors or people were like sworn in and accepted into these positions. Everybody was clapping even super loud at those points, but those weren't disruptions. Those were all normal times of the meeting to show our support. How else are we supposed to let them know whether or not we're with them or not if we have to be completely silent? There's no law or rule that says we have to be completely silent. And in fact, the Constitution allows for us to say whatever we want for political speech in either house of the legislature, Article 30. And it cannot be the impetus for any complaint or action in any court anywhere whatsoever.
Amen.
So Article 30, amen. Article 30 protects us and, okay, the right to worship. We have the right to worship, and if somebody wants to say amen at a certain point because they are worshiping their fucking God, they can. You better believe it.
They will.
Mr. Staples, nothing. You want to hold me in contempt? Let's go.
Mr. Staples, please watch.
Please watch my language, nothing.
Freedom of speech.
Okay, free speech, exactly.
Sir, did you just say something out loud?
No.
Who said freedom of speech?
Who cares? Don't answer. You don't have the right. Nobody has to listen to this dude. Don't play along with his game.
I'm just going to announce that if I hear anyone say anything out loud from the gallery, I'm going to have to.
For what?
Please proceed.
For what? What are you going to have him move for? What's the rule on that?
Mr. Staples, please proceed.
Yeah, because you don't have one. Article 30 protects these people. And Article 10, the right to revolution.
Mr. Staples, please proceed.
I am proceeding. So, I can't even keep track of where I'm at because you keep disrupting the meeting. Yeah, I know, it's funny, right? You're the one who's disrupting. Yeah, so, I'm trying, sir, please. So, where was it? Clapping. So we were sitting down, and people that were in attendance were happy that the executive council, some of the executive council members were listening to, obviously, our previous emails that we had sent and everything, and they were pushing back against the acceptance of this money. And, you know, nobody was singled out and warned for saying amen. Nobody was tapped on the shoulder except me and Therese, right? And I was tapped on the shoulder, and they said, come with me. Okay. All the people, because there was only a certain amount let inside, and there was a small cordoned off section, which I call the kill zone. Anybody that was in the kill zone was subject to potential arrest, because anybody outside, they had all these friends of the politicians, and all the reporters were kept in a separate area. That was not the kill zone, much bigger area. 3 times the size as the small area where they only let in the amount of people that they had seats for in the paddy wagons. 8 paddy wagons times 16 people equals the amount of chairs that people were allowed to attend this meeting from the protest. They planned on arresting everyone for saying amen. That's what they planned on. And the state said, oh, we're there to protect the elderly and to protect the children, right? It was all to protect the elderly and the children. Then why did you guys arrest women with babies in their arms? I saw women with babies in their arms getting arrested, and women, old women, 70 or 80-year-old woman, smashed her head on the concrete, dragged her out, manhandled her all the way out, and then smashed her head on the concrete because they were protecting the elderly, right? No, they weren't protecting shit. They were following orders like bootlickers for Governor Sununu. Okay? This was all orchestrated by the Executive Council. We even heard Megan Rose say that, oh, it was picked, that location was picked specifically by the Executive Council.
Mr. Staples, do you have any further testimony about the incident?
Yeah. I'm about to start talking about how I said shut it down. Okay? Are you going to just stop me from testifying? Are you going to try to rush me? Or are you going to let me testify? It's not your fault. I am proceeding. Stop fucking disrupting my goddamn train of thought. Okay?
Mr. Staples.
What are you going to do about it?
Mr. Staples.
Nothing.
Mr. Staples.
Stop!
He's antagonizing.
So, as I'm made to seem like we're being asked to leave, which is what Sununu testified to, or said to the crowd, right? The chief executive, the supreme excellency of the state of New Hampshire, His Excellency said, you will be asked to leave. After Megan, this was however long it was after Megan Walsh's warning for whatever she was warning. She said, you guys will be people will be asked to leave if there's a disruption. And I thought maybe I'm being asked to leave. But when I get behind the curtain, they said, oh, you're under arrest. I said, I'm under arrest for what? Disorderly conduct. Oh, all right. I didn't protest. I didn't fight. Once I was in cuffs and I was under arrest, you better believe I'm going to say something about it. And I started yelling, shut it down. We're being arrested. Fuck this shit. Because I'm hyperbolic. That's how I am. Right? And if you want to call, you can call that whatever it is what it is. I said it. I'm protesting my goddamn arrest. And I will protest my arrest. Did I fight? Did I resist? Did I get charged with resisting? No. It's not my fault that the police arrested me out, inside this other room that was not part of the public meeting, a completely separate room, right? Why didn't they take me outside the building? They knew I was going to be loud and they thought it might disrupt the meeting. Why didn't they ask me to leave? Like Sununu said they would ask me to leave. I don't know. Sounds like entrapment to me. But anyways, I was arrested, and once I was put in cuffs, you goddamn right, I'm gonna hoot and holler all the way into that fucking paddy wagon. Okay? I have the right to protest my illegal arrest and let everybody else know what's going on. And when I did, everyone said, what is happening? Why are they being arrested? People of normal sensibilities. You're telling me that whole room was not people of normal sensibilities? Average sensibilities, those were all wild. Oh, according to Sununu, we're all shut it down, no government at all type motherfuckers. That's what he said. Okay? And that's not true. We're constitutionalists. We believe in the rule of law. The real law. Where you guys get all your rules and all your statutes, come from the Constitution and they come from our consent.
Bill of Rights.
So,
Did you see who said that?
no, I couldn't. You got the murder police out. So, yeah, I hooted and hollered, and then they start arresting. You know, the state wants us to believe that they're protecting us and protecting the citizens, but they weren't protecting nothing. They were protecting the governor. They were protecting the governor, and they were protecting that federal pimp money, because they're whores. Nothing but whores.
All right, do you have any?
Yeah, I do have further testimony. So, I also refuse to sign the bail conditions. Because that's coming up in the next case. I refuse to sign those bail conditions. It's a non-jailable offense. You can't even detain me. You can't even detain me if I refuse to sign. So, I got into the van, and other people are getting arrested for asking why we're getting arrested. And it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying to watch what happened after I was arrested. Despicable. And oh yeah, you guys, let's go! Let's get this shit show started. Who's up first, Blinky? Oh, please, nothing. They drag me here, you guys drag me here, I'll do whatever the fuck I want, I'll say whatever the fuck I want, whatever the fuck I want. Fuck around and climb the fuck! Think that's a disruption? You think that's contempt? Fucking hold me in contempt then!
Mr. Staples,
Do it!
based on your conduct, you seem to want to be helped.
Maybe.
And
Maybe it's part of my disability. You want to hold me in contempt for my disability? Fuck you. Do it. I dare you. You already acknowledged it. You've already seen this shit. This is how I am. This is my normal baseline. Everybody knows it. A lot of people hate it. They like me, but they hate when I get like this. Just like you don't like it right now. But it is what it is.
all right, Mr. Staples, it sounds to me like you're recognizing that you're getting a little bit carried away. So let's try to get through this.
Do you want to take a 5-minute break?
Do you feel like you need a 5-minute break?
Maybe, yeah.
All right, so let's take a 5-minute break. Watch your step. We can get down.
All right, thank you. All right.
Well, live.
Don't forget, I'm a witness. I videoed the whole thing.
I'm gonna.
Like,
Because you've been in here with him.
that's against Israel. I didn't see any of the videos. I was gone in Florida. I haven't even videos.
We got a lot of people here. They shouldn't be able to dictate that witnesses. We're all here for this case.
You guys? Patricia Jorgensen, remember you guys struck her testimony? Oh yeah, she's here to finish, allow you guys to cross. Because no one told her she had to be back. You guys were in the middle of your cross, so you probably should have said something. But she's here, she's outside, sequestered.
And we didn't have any way to contact her.
Yeah, I had no way to call. She left, and I didn't have her phone number.
But I was able to track her down. Or between all of us, we were able to track her down so that she's here today.
So yeah, try to do that.
Is this guy? Hey, Ian, do you recognize this guy in the back? Is this from the AG? The Department of Justice? Blue.
Derek.
I'm just gonna let her know.
some of the
Yeah, let her know, yep.
hands-on witness, the whole thing. They were silent when the arrest was made. I videotaped the whole thing. I videotaped.
Yeah, he's somebody. Who is this guy? Who's that guy?
We should be able to testify to our plain and simple, transparent.
He looks like another state prosecutor or something. I don't know who he is.
Sounds like they're all being leveraged to go after.
Everybody is, dude.
He wants to get it done with because he's gonna do what they did in Newfield. He's gonna say, not guilty, get up and walk out. Because they don't want the case law that this is gonna bring. And you guys know it. All right?
Does that sign say incorporation?
Mr. Staples, with respect to your behavior, with respect to that particular day, you do recall at some point in time the governor gave a warning after the Pledge of Allegiance, asking people to be quiet. You recall it?
I don't recall him asking people to be quiet. He said, people, if there are any more disruptions or outbursts like that, then we can't have that or something along those lines. He didn't say, people, you need to be quiet, you have to be silent. If anyone says anything or makes a noise, you're going to be arrested. He didn't say anything like that, no.
And you recall?
And is he law enforcement? Is that a lawful order by Sununu? But
What would you agree that at some point in time?
It's a lawful order?
Would you recognize?
No, it's not a lawful order.
Would you recognize the trooper who stood up in front of you and said, we're gonna need to be quiet? Would you recognize her as law enforcement? Megan Walsh.
Megan Walsh did not give me a warning.
Would you recognize her as law enforcement?
Sure.
Okay.
But that was not a lawful order.
And how about Sergeant DeLuca, when he came up and came down and spoke to you and asked you to be quiet? Would you recognize him to be law enforcement?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So with respect to him giving you a specific request based upon the conduct that he observed, you would recognize that he gave you that request based upon being law enforcement.
What request?
That he came up to you and told you,
What
Mr.
did you tell me?
Staples,
I don't know what you said. You're the one saying what he told me.
Yeah. He came up to you and asked you to be quiet.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he
Okay,
said.
well, he testifies, so we'll take him as.
Sure, take his testimony, whatever you want to do.
So with respect to
There's no nexus to the arrest.
did she also inform
Thank
you and the rest of the people there that further disruptions would lead to people being arrested for disorderly conduct?
What are you talking about now?
Did Ms. Walsh, did Sergeant Walsh say that to you?
She did not say that to me, no.
Did she say it to the group?
She did not say it to any one person.
Okay. She
Which
said
is, well, hold on. I'm answering your question. She did not say it to any one person, which is what the law requires and references. It doesn't allow for a blanket statement. So let's say 10 people in the room make some disruptions or say some things, and then she comes out and she warns the entire crowd, and there's 100 people there. 10 people made noises that she came out maybe. She also testified she doesn't know why she gave the thing. She don't even know why she came out, so she had no purpose. She was ordered to give that. So it can't be a lawful order from her.
So after an individual request from Sergeant DeLuca and later a general request from Megan Walsh,
I didn't get a general request from Megan Walsh.
Mr. Staples, I'm gonna make sure that he doesn't interrupt you answering. Let me ask you to not interrupt his question. Wait till
And with respect to the proceedings after that, at some point in time, they started to discuss some things, and you said we had a plan, or we had all agreed that we were going to stand up and turn our backs to the state.
I did say that.
Yeah. And during that period of time, when Councilor Gatsis apparently said something that you and some of the group agreed with, you recall Therese saying, "Amen," and you recall saying, "Yeah."
I did not say that, no.
Right.
I said that your troopers testified that I said yeah, and that's why I was arrested.
Right.
Yeah, and hold on. I wasn't actually charged with saying yeah. I was charged with saying shut it down.
And certainly after you had uttered something, after
Something?
Teresa had said what she had said, you then ended up clapping, I believe you testified.
In the video, you can see the whole room clapping, yeah.
Okay.
Everyone
And
clapped.
so it was after the specific warning from Sergeant DeLuca and after the general warning from Ms. Walsh specifically saying disrupting the meeting will lead to arrest, did you engage in the conduct we're talking about?
Those things you're being, I don't know what you're talking about, because you're being just as vague as she was with her thing. If there's any more disruptions she didn't say anything about clapping. She didn't say nobody's allowed to clap at certain points of the meeting, did she? She didn't say everyone has to be completely quiet and silent or you'll be arrested, did she? No, she didn't.
And earlier you said that you're allowed freedom of speech, and you referenced, I believe you referenced, our state constitution.
Article 30.
Article 30, right?
Article 30.
So why don't we look at Article 30?
I've already looked at it.
Okay, let's do it together.
Oh, let's do it, because it's probably the first time you've ever read it.
So, the freedom of deliberation, speech, and debate in either house of the legislature.
Sure.
Right? Were you in either house of the legislature? Were you in either house of the legislature when this was occurring?
This was legislative stuff. This is
Were you
business.
in either house of the
It
legislature?
couldn't be held there. How could it be held there? In lieu of being held at the State House, it was held there. So it doesn't matter. At that time, where that meeting was being held is state property, is part of the legislature. So just because you held it off-site somewhere to entrap and arrest everybody and not have it so that everyone could be in Reps Hall, like there was just a meeting last week that everybody was allowed into Reps Hall that holds 400 plus people, okay? The police theaters and trainings could have held 400 people, but you guys cordoned it off and only let in about 150 or whatever.
Are you saying the governor and council regularly meets in Reps Hall?
I don't fucking know. You think I follow this shit that much, dude? You act like I'm some fucking goddamn politician. Well, I mean, this guy acts like I know everything and everybody and all the processes and all that shit. My purpose was to not get FEMA camps, isolation and quarantine put in this state by accepting $27 million in federal pimp money.
Okay.
Okay?
And with respect to our state constitution, there's a provision that deals with council. Can you tell me where in provisions there where it talks about council?
No, I don't know what you're talking. What's the
Where it
point?
talks about freedom of speech at a council meeting? Do you see anything in there about
Article 22. Freedom of speech anytime, anywhere, any place.
Attorney O'Leary.
Yes.
Can I ask you to direct your questions to address the conduct that's alleged in the complaints?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah. Address what I'm being charged with.
He's alleging that he had.
You're saying I said yeah, and I'm not even charged with that.
Mr. Staples,
Oh, but I mean, this is insane.
I understand that you represented to the court that your disability makes it difficult for you to control yourself.
I even took Xanax today. It's not prescribed. So I'm super as calm as I can fucking be, dude.
All right, well, just calm down.
I'm trying. This guy's. Oh, you said yeah, but I'm not even charged with saying yeah, and I wasn't arrested for saying yeah. So what the fuck is really going on here? I don't understand. He don't know what's going on. Look at him blinking again.
Do you have any further questions for this?
I guess the only other thing I would like to do is I'd like to ask him about whether or not his intent was to go and to disrupt things. And he said earlier that he wasn't there to disrupt things.
Correct.
And I want to play him a bit of video to show exactly what his intent is. Do you recall going to the governor and council meeting down in?
Council meeting was held at the New Hampshire
Objection.
Institute of Politics in Manchester.
Objection. Shut it down, motherfucker! Shut it the fuck down! Shut that shit the fuck up! This has nothing to do with this case! Nothing! I'm not being charged with anything there! He's asking about that thing? Yo! The fucking AG did a 6-month investigation on that and said nothing happened! Okay? Why wasn't I charged with anything there? Why wasn't I charged with anything there, you fucking cunt? Huh?
Find out what's gonna happen here.
Fuck you!
They did that on purpose, dude. They did that totally on purpose.
Good! Let's fucking get this clown show fucking started!
Ridiculous. That prosecution didn't bring up anything relevant to your
Nothing
case.
relevant to this fucking case. Fuck that shit!
I'm sticking with you, Frank. I'm not staying up there. That's recorded up there. They just kicked them out.
Fuck that! Hold me in contempt!
Just
Put me in fucking jail!
don't go back in. That's all I gotta say. They just kicked him out, like, cause look, the judge was allowing him to be accelerated for a bit, right? But the thing is like as soon as they brought up, the prosecutor had him on the stand, right?
Yeah.
And they kept on bringing up facts that were not relevant to this case, and he kept on objecting and stuff. And then that's when they finally kicked him out because he's basically not. The prosecution is not doing anything right now. They didn't bring up any evidence, and they're trying to bring up new evidence too that has nothing to do with this case. They're messing up. The prosecution is just doing this to get him riled up.
No!
They're antagonizing him.
Fucking pissed off and I'm making a fucking point!
Even the judge was antagonizing him for a minute, getting him going, basically just interrupting and say, "Please proceed, please proceed," on purpose and just antagonistic. It's disgusting. I will sign an affidavit to that.
Now I'm being charged with saying shut it down from that event? Is that what you're telling me?
He's trying to show your attitude. Your attitude has nothing to do with what happened.
No shit.
The judge knows that. The judge can't allow that in. If you object,
Is that a Newport?
it won't be allowed.
What you got? I'm good. I'm gonna go grab it then. I'm gonna leave this out here, unless someone wants to handle it until I run to my car.
What are they gonna do? They're gonna proceed without me? You gonna proceed without me? Mistrial? Let's go, fucking mistrial, bitch. What do you guys want to do?
So is it permanent or is it some temporary? What's the order?
I don't know, that's the question.
He said, I want him removed. How are you going to remove me in the middle of the state cross-examining me?
Let me see if they're still going.
Yeah, go up there and find out. You know what I mean? How you...
What room is it in?
Free.
The middle one, yeah.
I feel like they're attacking me.
Mm-hmm.
They got nothing left. They're grasping at straws.
They're breaking the matrix.
I know, I got the whole
It's always been like that to anyone.
Yeah, I'm on Neo mode right now. Arrest me! Put me in contempt! What do you want to do? Put me in contempt for a few days?
You could just win. That would be good.
Sure.
And then move on to the next one. And win that one.
It's also delayed almost.
You know, we've covered a lot of good points today. And you're not being, that's what you got to keep hammering. You are not being charged with what they keep bringing up with. We talked about that last night. You're not being charged with doing this or that. You're being charged with shut it down
And clapping loudly.
and clapping loudly. All right?
Their energy
I think you got the clapping covered and shut it down, have it behind the curtain. You could have fucking detonated a nuclear fucking bomb behind the curtain. It's got nothing to do with what they're charging you with.
Right.
You were out of the room. You were out of the meeting at that point.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything like they just don't bring up any hard evidence.
Relevant anything.
It should have been thrown out a long time ago.
What is it?
But this is what they've been leading up is to
Clapping
this
loudly
moment,
and
so
saying
they
shut
can
it down.
just kick him out, and then they're gonna rule on it.
Yeah.
Is that a misdemeanor?
No, it's only a violation.
No, it's a misdemeanor, but it's actually only supposed to be a violation. It's only supposed to be a misdemeanor if you're asked to leave and the conduct continues, and that's only, and we're going to get into that in closing arguments.
Crazy.
If you're allowed in.
Violation.
They can't even charge him with a misdemeanor because he wasn't warned and then kept it up.
Right.
So that would make it a misdemeanor. He was warned and then taken behind, then arrested, right? So that is only a violation.
So, they're not gonna let Patricia Jorgensen go back on stage with the cross. They're saying it was so it was denied, so the judge did let me speak. The prosecution turned around and said, we'll leave it up to you, Judge. We won't object to her coming back on the stand. We know this is lay people. We may not have done it exactly right, blah, blah, blah. But, so they denied her coming back on the stand for the cross. And they're ready for state rested because they said clearly I was gonna ask him about stuff. Huh?
Not yet, no, I got kicked out. Duct tape.
Amen.
All right, I'll grab it. Yeah, he got kicked out.
But they're gonna keep going.
Yeah, they're gonna keep going. You got a Sharpie? Cool.
I've got some already coming.
These guys know exactly how to trigger you. That this further demonstrates that September 13th will prove that it was retaliatory to September 13th.
Can you rip me off, please?
So they're ready for
Thank you.
closing arguments. But you've got to stay calm because
Kills me to see this happen.
There you go. His cap's loose. They're Teresa's. If you don't mind bringing it to her when she comes in.
Give me 1 second. I gotta check you. Come on, over this way.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody about now. Turn around for me. We don't like taking responsibility for property. I'm not worried about it.
Alright, sir. I'm good though. Thank you.
I kind of have to say no to say to the court.
Good. God damn it. Make you strip search, man. Come on. Oh, I messed it up. Damn it. You got a state rep here, Jason Gearhart.
Did Emily show up?
Emily from the warehouse.
No.
Go ahead, please, please. Go.
DeLuca feels bad. They were talking to him? And the prosecutors were talking to him.
He was right here.
Where's the?
You were conducting yourself in such a way as to be extraordinarily disruptive to the orderly process of this hearing. And so I was in the process of deeming that you had forfeited your right to continue present in the courtroom.
Doesn't work that way.
But I understand that you're gonna be able to control yourself so that we can conclude this proceeding.
I am doing the best that I can.
No, I hear what you're saying. So, this is a criminal proceeding. You have the right to participate in this hearing. You have the right to see, hear, and question all witnesses against you. But
Except for Provenza.
But it's not absolute. So I very much appreciate your willingness to come back to the courtroom, conduct yourself reasonably. So let's now, after you had left the courtroom, the state indicated that they have no further questions for you. So I'm going to hear closing arguments now. And this would be your opportunity to make a closing argument, unless you have any other testimony that you'd like to introduce.
Well, so what happens? I go and then the state does, and then what from there?
Yes, if you've rested your case, if you have no further evidence or testimony that you want to introduce, then you would rest. You can make a motion to dismiss if you'd like at that point, and then you can make a closing argument, and then I'll hear from the state of New Hampshire.
Is DeLuca and Provenza allowed to be in the courtroom? Just asking.
Do you have any further evidence or testimony?
Yes, I do. I wanted to testify about that video that he was bringing up, because he keeps bringing up all these previous things beyond the 1013 arrest and trying to characterize it as that's why I was being arrested, which is part of my point of the entrapment. It goes all the way back to the St. Anselm video that he just tried to play.
So, Mr. Staples, to the extent that you have an objection to the state introducing evidence of some other event that you were or weren't a participant.
They've already done that with their cross and stuff, so maybe it's a closing argument thing.
If you could let me finish.
Sure, sorry.
I would sustain your objection to that evidence. And so I'm not going to allow any evidence to come into this case about video of some other proceeding that you were involved in. I think it's
beyond the scope of.
It's 404B evidence, technically under the rules of evidence, not to get all inside baseball, but it's not admissible. So do you have any other evidence or testimony that you want to
Yeah, just this piece here.
What is that?
This is part of the state's discovery, and this is Office of Governor Chris Sununu press conference from Wednesday, October 13th, 2021 at 3 o'clock. And he makes statements in here about the arrests.
Why is it relevant?
It's relevant towards the entrapment defense that I'm building, into where his statements that he makes proves that it goes all the way back to the protest in front of his house, and that he's targeting everyone in the entire room. He admits to it in his own statement. They're evidence, part of the discovery.
Your Honor, it looks to me to be a transcript of a press conference held after the event with a declarant who is not in court to be cross-examined. I don't think it should be accepted.
That's why I wanted Sununu here. We need to be able to cross-examine Sununu's statements and what they are putting forward from Sununu. And then why is this part of the discovery if I'm not allowed to use it? And there's relevant facts in there, statements, public statements in his official capacity that he made about the arrests.
The state's objection is sustained. Any other evidence or testimony you'd like to introduce?
Oh yeah, I wasn't here for the Pat Jorgensen thing. Why is she not being allowed to finish her cross-examination?
I ruled under Rule 403 that it would be needlessly cumulative at this point.
Needlessly cumulative? No, but her testimony has been stricken only because they were not allowed to finish cross-examination. So it's not cumulative, it's already happened, now it's being removed. Her testimony was some of the best testimony that we had.
That's the court's decision.
Oh, let's see, this is the court's decision to keep it removed. So, okay. And what about, I'd like to call O'Leary to the stand. Because he filed the original complaints. I want to ask him about the original complaints that he filed.
Yeah,
Why does he object?
I'm the witness to the underlying case, so I'm not.
You are a witness.
And under court rule, one cannot be both an attorney in the matter and a witness in the case. So.
Right.
Perfect.
You can't be the prosecutor and the complainant, but he is.
Mr. Staples, do you have any more evidence or testimony?
This, yeah. Him being the complainant and the prosecutor, which he just admitted is not allowed.
Do you rest?
No. What do you mean? Can I answer this as evidence? It's part of the court record.
It's a part of the court record.
So it's already, you already know what it is, right? And Shepard didn't file his appearance until way after as well. So what do you mean, if I rest now, then I get into closing arguments? Okay. Yeah. To rest. Yeah, so should be good to go into closing arguments here.
Please go ahead.
So yeah, that's the one. So, the state has clearly not met its burden of proof, nor have they provided accurate evidence that I committed the crime of disorderly conduct. They presented clips of videos that were clearly doctored and amplified, that were different from the full context videos that I showed of the incident. And due to the wide range of inconsistent and irrelevant statements surrounding incidents of 1013 arrest from the state's witnesses and the lack of video evidence that demonstrates I was guilty of the crimes I was charged with. The only consistent feature between the troopers' testimonies, who've now left the room, was that the entire day had been carefully orchestrated between the state police, the governor, and the executive council. They picked that location specifically, and Megan Rose testified to that they had to pick that because it was not a normal type of it was not a typical event, right, where there's only a few people showing up. This was a very serious event where there was hundreds and hundreds of people trying to attend and protest and not get this money for FEMA camps and the isolation and quarantine of New Hampshire citizens that was strings attached to the $27 million of funding, right? So the entire day had been carefully orchestrated by the governor and executive council with over 80 state agents and up to 8 paddy wagons ready to arrest a small segmented portion of the public who were known to have come up against Sununu's saying that this money had to be accepted. We're going to get this money accepted. It's all disinformation with the vaccines. These people are conspiracy theorists. They're not members of the GOP. They're not Republicans. And a lot of people maybe aren't. A lot of people are probably independent. But what does that matter, right? What does that matter? The state provided discovery regarding this press conference that was held on 10/13. Sununu was quoted as saying, "Look, I believe most of the people standing in the public in that room protesting were not part of the Republican Party. These are anti-government, shut it down, no government at all, cost type individuals." I mean, they've been fairly blunt about that, frankly.
You know, on the trier effect here, can you just address your argument to me, not wander around the courtroom and speak to
I mean, I'm right here, and it's like at 2 feet, I'm just going back and forth.
No, but just address the court, please. Stop swirling around.
Stop swirling around.
And what's your position?
He's arguing facts, not evidence. He's quoting from the governor's press conference.
That's the same.
So the folks that were at that meeting were passionately and vehemently opposed to the acceptance of the $27 million in federal PIP money that was to create conditions for the isolation and quarantine of New Hampshire citizens at the direction of the federal government. The state showed us extremely brief selected clips of what appeared to be doctored and amplified video. Who did the doctoring? Trooper Pavenza, their specialist IT guy, who I was not made aware of, that he was going to be their specialist expert IT guy. What are Pavenza's credentials? What are Pavenza's credentials for IT? Well, he had to settle for a case where he doctored. Objection. No, this is glorious stuff.
It is absolutely not glorious stuff.
It is glorious stuff.
Trooper Preventing has never been placed in a lawyer.
Yes, he is. He's on the unredacted list.
To the best of my knowledge, he's not on the lawyer list.
He is.
was specifically absolved from responsibility in the case that Mr. Staples is referring to.
We don't know what case.
These are facts that aren't before the court anyway, Mr. Staples. You've got to restrict your...
They are before the court. I put them in my motion to dismiss.
It's not evidence that's before the court, Mr. Staples.
So how do I get it into evidence before the court? Do I have to take it off of this thing and submit it into evidence right now?
Please proceed with your argument.
So I'd like to submit that as evidence. The lawyerless issues with Provenza.
Mr. Staples, the evidence is closed in this case. This is your opportunity to make a closing argument.
And you said that you would accommodate me and you should be giving me leeway. I don't understand all these processes, sir.
Mr. Staples, this court provided you with ample accommodation.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So please proceed.
Yeah, okay. So, So I wasn't allowed to object to this expert witness who was also the complainant on these null prost, or on the new charges after these ones were null prost, right? And he testified, Provenza testified under oath that he was the scribe on 10/13/2021. His job was to write all the tickets for that day. So I would ask why O'Leary wrote the tickets for that day, when Provenza said that it was his job to do that, testify under oath. The original complaints were filed with the court on 11/5 by O'Leary, the prosecutor on this case until 4/29/2022. Note that this was more than 2 weeks after Provenza came to rescue O'Leary and filed the new charges, which he was supposed to file from the beginning, because that's what he testified under oath. His job was that day, was the scribe. So the state wants us to believe all these things that don't jive.
Ma'am, are you providing assistance?
No, I'm looking at I don't have a second copy, so I'm looking at it on my phone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, this is prosecutorial misconduct, this whole case, and malicious prosecution, because they've not proven anything. They had troopers getting up here testifying to everything except what I'm charged with. None of them testified that I clapped at any certain point and disrupted the meeting and showed where any disruption from any loud clapping was. There's no minute marks of this supposed evidence. He keeps referring, oh, at this point and at that point, all these very vague. Where is it in the video? Where's the minute marks? Because I got all our stuff marked with the minute marks. The state has not provided that. O'Leary was not at the 11/19 arraignment, despite his assertion that the court has heard, and that the court has heard testimony that Attorney Shepard was there on this date. It is true that Attorney Shepard
talking about the 11/19 arraignment here. I guess I can object. I know this is closing argument.
This is closing arguments. This is all the record. I want this on the record for the appeals. This is my closing arguments for all the stuff that's come about. I mean, what else am I supposed to say? Yeah, that's not that. No, this is the 11/19 arraignment, not the 11/19 event. The arraignment that you were not at. Remember? When you said that, when he said that Attorney Shepard was on the case that day.
I think it's irrelevant. This part of the argument is irrelevant. I don't know why he's talking about this. That's not.
It's relevant, sir, because it goes to show that the state has been lying this whole time about the entire process of this case. O'Leary swears that Shepard was there on 11/19, but Shepard did not file an appearance until 3/21/2022. So how was he there that day on 11/19 for the arraignment when O'Leary was not there? O'Leary swears that Shepard was on the case that day. He was not. Okay? So I'm going to the point of this is showing that the state is lying and they're misrepresenting the facts, all the facts of this case, particularly the arraignment and the prosecution, and how he was the original complainant, and that's why he wasn't there that day. And they saw Shepard. Shepard was in the video of that arraignment, and right before the arraignment commences, you can see Shepard walk out, because he wasn't here on that case. He didn't sign on until months later.
Mr. Staples, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to instruct the state to allow you to conclude your closing argument, and I'm going to restrict your closing argument to another 15 minutes. So when that clock says 2:10, that's when I'm going to stop. So there's a quid pro quo here. The state's not going to interrupt you, and you're going to efficiently
I'm trying. I got this stuff here, and you can't limit me to a certain amount of time. I'm doing the best I can, okay? I'm gonna finish my closing arguments. I have it all right here, and I'm doing the best I can. So to try to say you're only allowed a certain amount of time, no.
You're allowed until 2.
We'll see. So, yeah. So Judge Snapp even acknowledged that the state was absent for this initial appearance during the hearing. And all well documented and proven by the court record. In fact, the court records support that Shepard did not file his appearance until 3/21/22. Therefore, it is simply not possible for Shepard to have been on the case for the 11/19 arraignment. Moreover, the initial complaint does not show that these complaints were ever served on the defendant in hand or anything in any other capacity. The defendant contends that these complaints were not received until the time the state provided discovery. O'Leary has stated repeatedly that the complaints were given to the defense counsel on record, but again, the court records document that the counsel for the defendant did not appear on the court record until 11/10/2021, clearly because O'Leary was not present on 11/19/2021. And we have excluded Shepard as acting on the state's behalf of this hearing, as he expects the court to believe he served the documents to counsel according to the laws of the state. The court record contradicts everything that the state has professed to the court. These are clear violations of Rules 4 due process. If this is not enough to sway the court's opinion, there is more. Article 5 protests New Hampshire citizens' right to worship. We heard testimony that I was arrested for saying yeah after Therese Grinnell said amen. Okay? Even though I'm not charged with that. And there were at least 2 others that we saw in the video, 2 to 3 others that exclaimed their praise of amen at that same time. Is this purposeful disruption? Really? Is this reckless? The officers themselves were not even sure what they were giving warnings about, or even why they were ordered to arrest us. They said they were just following orders. Megan Rose can't give a lawful order if she doesn't know the purpose of the order. Okay? A lawful order is a command issued to any person for the purpose of preventing said person, not persons, said person from committing any offense set forth in this section. When the officer has reasonable grounds to believe that said person is about to commit any such act or offense, when said person is engaged in a course of conduct which makes his commission of such an offense imminent. A command issued to a person to stop him from continuing to commit any offense set forth in this section, when the officer has reasonable grounds to believe that said person is presently engaged in conduct which constitutes an offense. Okay? So, said person, the general warning by Megan Walsh was not to any one said person, and it was not for any specific offense. You can't color 90 people in the room who didn't do anything as now you're subject to arrest if you make one peep. So Megan Walsh's lawful could not have been ordered because she did not even know the purpose. She testified that she was just told, and she had no idea why she was giving the order. So it could not have been a lawful order. The only one who could give a lawful order is the one who witnessed the conduct and went to the individual, the person, to tell them that. And, 644-2, disorderly conduct, section 6, says disorderly conduct is a misdemeanor if the offense continues after a request by a person to desist. That is not what happened. Otherwise, it's a violation. Okay? There was nothing. When I got my warning, I didn't continue. We ended up getting a warning from Megan Walsh, and it was a general, non-lawful order. The only lawful order I got was from DeLuca when he came, and when I, way earlier in the meeting. So the conduct didn't continue, right, after that. I listened to it. So, if anything, this should be a violation. I would argue that the arrests that day were intended to send a strong warning to all citizens who may not agree with their elected and appointed officials by creating a chilling effect and taking out the folks who have been previously identified as flies in the emperor's ointment from previous events, right? And the state provided no evidence that I created a hazard or that I did anything purposefully to disrupt the meeting or anything reckless, because the charges are duplicated as purposely did this and recklessly did this. How do you recklessly make a statement? How does that create a reckless or a danger or a hazard by making a political statement? All right? We had no testimony to support that could be identified as reckless conduct. There was no disturbance or disruption of the meeting until after I was behind the curtain, out of the public meeting, and being arrested. We heard testimony that I didn't start hooting and hollering until I was in handcuffs and protesting my arrest. After the Walsh warning, Sununu then told the crowd that people would be asked to leave. Instead, the meeting was paused upon my being put into cuffs and then protesting the warnings. That was the only time the meeting was paused, was after I was already out back and protesting my arrest. So where was the disruption of the meeting prior to that when the state trooper said I said yeah? We also heard testimony that I said it's a lie. Yeah, this is important. So DeLuca said he witnessed me say it's a lie twice, and then that's why he ordered Greco to arrest me. But then another officer said I was arrested for saying yeah after Therese said amen, even though I'm being charged with saying shut it down. One trooper said that I said shut it down, and he said it was prior to the Megan Walsh's warning. I didn't say shut it down, but even if I did prior to the Megan Walsh's warning, why would I be arrested for it over an hour later? And how would that, I'm getting arrested for something after the warning that I did before? You know what I'm trying to say? So I supposedly said shut it down prior to the Megan Walsh's warning, and that's what I was arrested for? That doesn't make sense to me, because if I hadn't received the warning that I'm going to be arrested yet, then why did I get arrested for saying shut it down? If that's when they're saying I said shut it down, which is what they did say. All the people that were in attendance that day were people of average sensibilities. These were all normal citizens. And there was all kinds of people saying amen, clapping at different points. We will be here, we'll keep coming back. None of those people got warned. That wasn't a disruption. The meeting was never paused for any of those things. And as far as I'm concerned, those were all normal things that people, when they get upset or when they get happy, we clap, we're allowed to clap loudly for the people who are getting voted in and sworn in, but we're not allowed to exclaim at other points in the meeting, only at approved points in the meeting. It's very, very confusing to know what is and what isn't allowed, right? And why didn't LaVoy arrest me? Because he's the one that said I said shut it down prior to the Megan Walsh's warning. Why didn't they arrest me right then? Oh, because Megan Walsh didn't give her warning yet. No wonder. So why am I being arrested for saying shut it down, and when did I say shut it down? There's no proof, there's no timestamps. They didn't show anything in their videos of me saying shut it down after the Megan Walsh's warning, right? The whole room said all kinds of stuff, but me and Therese were the only ones that were arrested, and they did testify that I was arrested for saying, yeah, and it's a lie, and shut it down. So, Very, very conflicting statements. And yeah, and these people, including myself, were arrested for asking questions that the very folks that swore an oath to protect them. More conditions which contributed to the arrest included how there were small roped-off sections and the chairs were zip tied together. All those citizens were subject to arrest, as you heard me testify, the kill zone. There was a separate area where certain members of the public, friends of the politicians, and certain media was allowed to be. Those people were not subject to this entrapment situation. If it were not for the Megan Walsh warning, followed by Sununu saying people would be asked to leave, it wouldn't be an entrapment. But given all the totality of the circumstances, picking that specific location, sectioning us all off into a small area, giving multiple warnings from Sununu, who I don't even know if he's not law enforcement. So is his warnings and admonitions lawful orders after the Pledge of Allegiance? And you know, it's just confusing. What are we supposed to, are we going to listen to the governor saying, you guys are going to be asked to leave? Or do we listen to Megan Walsh, who just gives this blanket statement? The purpose and why she was ordered to give that blanket statement was to create the conditions for arrest. Those conditions for all those arrests, mine and everyone else there included, could not have happened without the Sununu admonitions and the Walsh warning, which is the state's whole entire case. All right, 2 things left. So now looking at what was going on from the time the defense turned his back until the defendant turned his back, and he turned around and sat back down and was tapped on the shoulder. Councilor Gassis was very clearly speaking in opposition to the $27 million. So why would anyone who was there to keep the money from coming to New Hampshire want to stop the meeting? We wanted the vote. There's also at the very beginning, right before we did the Pledge of Allegiance, I said, vote no. You can hear me clearly. I believe we showed that. And I said, vote no, right before the meeting was about to start. You can clearly hear my voice. And that's all I wanted, was to vote no. We saw at the beginning, the plan was to let them vote and see where it goes. It was not to disrupt the meeting. My purpose and everybody's purpose there was not to disrupt the meeting, was to let the vote happen. And there was...
And Mr. Staples, you need 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So we the people of New Hampshire, frankly, you can see by the way I am here throughout this whole proceeding, we're fed up. And we will not be silenced any longer. We will not be censured any longer. We will not be fearful of arrest for saying amen or yeah or any other pedantic thing, muttering under our breath. We will not be fearful of being proud to demonstrate our religious freedoms, and we will protect the right of all those who wish to say amen or object to anything at a public meeting. Article 30 says, and this was a house of the legislature, this was an official meeting, just because it's not held on that property doesn't mean anything. It says the freedom of deliberation, speech, and debate in either house of the legislature is so essential to the rights of the people that it cannot be the foundation of any action, complaint, or prosecution in any court or other place whatsoever. Article 31, meetings of the legislature are for what purposes? The legislature shall assemble for the redress of public grievances. Any assembly that the legislature has, we are able to redress our public grievances per Article 31. And Article 32, the rights of assembly, instruction, and petition. The people have a right in an orderly and peaceful manner to assemble and consult upon the common good, give instructions to their representatives, vote no, right? And to request the legislative body by way of petition, remonstrance, or redress of the wrongs done to them in the grievances they suffer. So if not at a public meeting, where are we to express our opposition to these things? After the fact, in the parking lot where everybody else is locked in an echo chamber, where we don't have access to our public officials to let them know? No, the time and the place is right there, right now, at the public meeting. Rights of assembly, the purpose of the meetings, freedom of speech, also free speech and liberty of the press are essential to the security and freedom of the state. They ought therefore be inviolably preserved. Okay? So, this entire case is about free speech and people being able to breathe to the government and their elected officials. So, I would say Article 31 should not even allow this case to go forward in any respect. I was not asked to leave, and I was still charged with a misdemeanor instead of a violation, right? Disorderly conduct is a misdemeanor if the offense continues after a request to desist. I didn't even get asked. They just tapped me on the shoulder and didn't even say what the disorderly conduct, because they didn't even know what the disorderly conduct was. Nobody knew what the disorderly conduct was. The officers were just following orders.
Thank you, Mr. Staples.
Thank you.
The evidence in this case is pretty clear. The defendant was put on notice multiple times on the day of this meeting with regard to behavior and conduct and speech to not disrupt a meeting of the governor and council. He has cited repeatedly his claim of some sort of a First Amendment right to express himself. But what he cites to have to do with things that have to do with the legislature. They have nothing to do with meetings of the governor or council. What we indicate and what we are saying is essentially there is a reason to have time, place, and manner restrictions on speech. In this particular instance, it was very clear. These meetings are not, if you look under the state constitution having to do with the governor assembling the council, they are not participatory meetings in the sense that the public gets to go there and stand up. I know it was several days ago that we heard the testimony of Ms. Rose, but she's the person who is regularly at these meetings and before these meetings, and there is a manner in which they proceed that is not, the public is recognized to come up and speak and address. These are situations where the governor or council recognize people who perhaps are nominated for a position or whatever, but they are not meetings at which members of the public are just allowed to show up and start talking. They're not allowed to disrupt. She said that online they have information that is available to the public to understand. We have an open government. We want people to be allowed to come to meetings and to see what is going on in the meetings. That's the nature of it. But participate does not mean that you get to stand up or that you get to make noise or that you get to disrupt. I think it's very clear with respect to Mr. Staples that that's exactly what he wants to do. And it's very clear that in the, after he's taken behind the curtain and informed he's being arrested because he's been given an individual warning with respect to conduct. He's been given a general warning with respect to Sergeant Walsh, and then Captain specifically sees him doing things. It's like that's after he's been warned by Sergeant DeLuca, and after he's been given the general warning to the rest of the crowd that they will be arrested. He is in fact identified, taken outside, and arrested. And his response is to yell and to scream. I'm not going to belabor that point, but I think it's very clear that once he has been, told that he's under arrest, His response is, now I'm gonna ramp it up even more. I'm gonna yell, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. That's very clear from the information that's on the records that are before you. That's very clear from the video. It's very clear from the testimony. No question whatsoever what his intent was with respect to that. So the state is charged in the alternative and said, look, you know, if he was doing things clapping and doing all the rest, he was clearly recklessly creating a risk at the very least when he was inside. And then once he's arrested and he's behind the curtain, he's not even facing the troopers that are telling him that he's under arrest. He's shouting at the curtain so that the people inside can understand, and he's communicating to them, you need to stop this meeting. You need to shut this down. That's as clear can be with regard to purpose. I would cite, you know, one case I will cite to the court having to do with time, place, and manner restrictions and the notion that they are reasonable, that our First Amendment is the people have a right to express themselves, but the court can also understand, and it is in fact the case, that reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions have been recognized in this state and have been recognized in United States Supreme Court opinions going back many, many years. The case I'm going to cite is the state of New Hampshire versus Bailey. It's 166 New Hampshire 537, and it talks about things about reasonable restrictions on speech. And in this particular situation, the defendant has cited the things having to do with free speech at the houses of the legislature, which I think, you know, reasonably goes to people addressing their representatives in that forum, and it's specifically set out in our Constitution. But there's a second part of the Constitution, state Constitution, that deals with the governor assembling with council to consider things like nominations, to consider contracts before the state, and to consider things like that. And under those circumstances, the public has a right to be present to see that the government is functioning a certain way, but they do not have a right to participate. And that's specifically what Megan Walsh was addressing to that. Any further disruptions, and you're going to be arrested for disorderly conduct. She is clearly a lawful authority. She clearly has the right to make that pronouncement. And with respect to Mr. Staples, the court heard the testimony of Sergeant DeLuca that he had individually told him about the behavior and disruptions before. So, to the extent this charge is a misdemeanor, he's charged because he was given a specific warning with respect to Sergeant DeLuca. He was then given a general warning with respect to Sergeant Walsh, and then he engaged in conduct that was witnessed by Captain Lavoy that led to his arrest. Once he's under arrest, he then, you know, he said, I have a right, I have some sort of constitutional right to protest my arrest. There's no such thing. There's no such thing in the Constitution. That doesn't exist anyway. If you feel like you have been unlawfully arrested, your forum for addressing that is court. You don't go in and say, well, now that I'm being arrested, it's time for me to get everyone to shut things down. Couldn't be any clearer. We'd ask the court to make a finding with respect to both charges of guilty. Thank you very much.
Your Honor. The state website actually identifies AC as part of the legislative body. So
I'm not entertaining any further.
You're not entertaining anything. And I actually, there's one thing that I did forget. I was hoping I could get in there real quick.
I'm sorry, Mr. Staples.
No, because there's an exemption, part 3C of 642, disorderly conduct is disruption of any lawful assembly or meeting of persons without lawful authority. And the lawful authority comes from, like I said, Article 10, Article 30, 31, 32, and 22.
Thank you, Mr. Staples.
Thank you.
Motion. Motion to dismiss. Motion.
Oh yeah, what about the motion to dismiss?
Mr. Staples, so you're facing 4 charges, 2 charges for the first incident, 2 charges for the second.
Stacked, yeah, they're stacked.
With respect to the alternative theories on the first incident, I can see why you were removed from the auditorium. There was a warning from the governor, there was a warning from the sergeant, then there was a warning from Officer DeLuca directed to you. Walsh was a general warning. And then it's pretty clear that you said yeah after these warnings. And so, like I said, I can see why the state police removed you from the auditorium.
He said, I said, yeah, but I was telling you what I was charged with.
Right. I mean, I get the sense that at the scene, the police perceived you to be something of a bellwether.
Yes.
And you could see that when you stood up, a lot of the other people stood up and turned their backs on the governor and council. So I think they rightly perceived that if you were getting carried away, then maybe other people might get carried away. So like I said, I can see why they removed you from the auditorium. And I can see why they believed that they had probable cause to arrest you at that point. And I think they did have probable cause to arrest you at that point. But the burden in this proceeding, in this criminal proceeding, is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's difficult for me to find proof beyond a reasonable doubt with respect to you saying yeah, and finding that that created a risk, as the statute requires, of disrupting the orderly conduct of business. I can see how they were trying to take preventative steps from you possibly doing that, but I think your statement of yeah, which was essentially the straw that broke the camel's back for them, was what precipitated them deciding that it was time to maintain order and remove you from the auditorium. Like I said, I think there was probable cause for your arrest, and I think the police were justified in removing you, but I can't find beyond a reasonable doubt that those actions constituted the criminal offense of disorderly conduct. Behind the curtain, I find that the state's proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. I do find that you were acting purposely when you were screaming at the curtain, and then you were yelling that you were being arrested and blank this blank and shut it down. And I think you were acting in a manner that was purposely disruptive, and in the language of the statute, you purposely caused a breach in the peace, public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm by disrupting the orderly conduct of business in any public or governmental facility. So, because I've found that the state's proven each and every element of that offense beyond a reasonable doubt.
All charges?
Well, no, they're alternative theories, so I'm entering a finding of guilty on the purposeful. That is charge ID 16743C.
And is that a violation?
No, that's a Class B misdemeanor.
Well, at that point, I wasn't asked to do anything. I was in a separate room. I wasn't even in the meeting anymore.
Yeah, but you'd been asked to desist in disrupting.
No, they didn't. They said I was under arrest behind the curtain.
Oh, well, I understand that you may disagree with the decision I made.
Of course I'm going to disagree with it, but it just doesn't, yeah, sure.
Does the state have a
Very
record?
ridiculous anyways.
Your state recommended $1,000 fine based on, what it says, $1,000 fine with half of it suspended for a year of good behavior and no attendance at government council meetings. Yeah, not gonna happen. We would argue that this is substantial substantiated that I know it's a high fine for the offense, but this is not Mr. Staples' approach to conviction for disorderly conduct, and so I think it justifies that.
So, just so the court knows, I will not pay a fine if you give me one. You're gonna have to put me in jail for $150 a day. If that's what you wanna do. I can't afford anything, and even though there are people that will pay the fine for me, that's not gonna happen either. I will not allow somebody to pay a fine for me for something like this. And then what else was it? Suspended time, oh, the executives, I can't, so now I'm not allowed to participate in our government. They're trying to lock me out of participating in the government. So just like the bail conditions on the other case that say I'm not allowed to be within 1,000 feet or 100 feet of the executive council and all that, that as well is to keep me from having a voice and playing a role in the political process.
Mr. Staples, do you wish to be heard further on sentencing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any fine is justified in any way. You know, this whole process has already destroyed my life. I've had to take so much time out of my personal life to deal with this nonsense that I feel like that's enough. I'm homeless, okay? So whatever you want to do, you want to give me a fine, give me a fine.
Okay. Mr. Staples, on the court's finding you guilty, you're fined $1,000 plus the statutory penalty assessment, $240, $500 of the fine, and $120 of the statutory penalty assessment are suspended on the condition of your good behavior for a period of 1 year. Are you able to take care of the fine and penalty assessment this afternoon?
No, like I said, I'm not paying the fine, I'm appealing this as well. Just so you know, so I'm appealing this.
I'll note your appeal.
Yeah.
Anything further from the state? Anything further, Mr. Staples?
No.
All right, this hearing's concluded.
Boo! Fascism! Fascism!
You're all sellouts.
You prosecutors should be ashamed of yourselves.
We're gonna win on appeal. Don't worry about it.
And we have enough evidence, of the state's wrongdoing to bring it up to the bar.
How about a military tribunal? Good luck. Look up the law of war manual. Look it up.
Don't worry, Nuremberg Trials 2.0 are coming for you people.
Look at enemies, foreign or domestic, interference of a 2020 fraudulent selection. You're part of it, you're part of the cover-up.
It's like, what do you think happens when you arrest people? They're gonna complain, and now you use that against him.
And shifty eyes, shifty shift, right here, this one.
Shifty shift.
Shifty eyes. Guess what?
We can write our legislators.
We'll see you.
We can write our
See you over.
Our legislators are here in the courtroom. I don't want to go to
Want to go to the JAG? How about the JAG? How about a military tribunal under the... I'm going to go for the JAG. This corrupt incorporation, the British accredited registry.
So that's why we're trying to get out of here.
Doesn't work. We don't comply with the British Crown line.
If you yell about your illegal, you get found guilty.
I came without this time because I want my voice faster.
When they brought him behind the...
My knowledge is my ammo.
Hey, they knew. They set him up with that. They set him up. They could have taken him out of the building, and then he would have been yelling.
They wouldn't let me get back up there and testify
Right.
to the facts.
No, I know.
that were
They're
there.
criminal. They're criminal.
Okay, the British accredited registry, the rules, we don't comply to the law. So anybody here understand? Okay, good.
Sort of. He is working for the people that are doing this.
Right here, shifty eyes, I thought he was scaring me at one point in time, didn't you?
Innocent Frank right here.
Well, at least we got one case dismissed, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how they put their head on their pillow knowing that
You guys ought to be
everything our
ashamed of yourself.
forefathers, everything my grandpa, everything our...
Let's not get him arrested, then they're gonna probably try to get me arrested again.
How about it, O'Leary, you wanna come talk to this woman that you had arrested for saying amen? Huh?
How about Kathleen?
Let's go, O'Leary.
I wasn't tapped on the shoulder. I wasn't given a warning. I wasn't even in the room when Megan Walsh gave a warning.
Huh? You feel good about yourself? How the fuck do you sleep at night? How the fuck do you sleep at night?
Performance is fine.
Oh, fuck you. Get the fuck out of my fucking face.
This is how you acted when you came to
This
the
is how I fucking act.
It is not.
Where, yeah,
It
get
is
the,
not.
you're a fucking bootlicking cunt. Go fuck yourself.
He doesn't react well
Go
to
fuck
liars.
yourself. You're a fucking liar. You're a fraud. You want to act cool with me? Yeah, go hide in there. Go hide in there. Fucking cunts. Hide in there.
There are kids out there.
What?
There are kids out there.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and they're violating their rights. You think that's good for kids to see?
I'm here to protect the kids.
Who
We're
are you?
protecting
Who
the
are you?
kids. We're
Who are
protecting
you?
the kids from forced vaccination.
Frank, come on.
And
Frank, come on.
isolation
Come on, Frank.
quarantine.
Frank,
All right? Boo! Boo! Bunch of fucking losers. The Jets suck. Of course he is. Fuck him. Meet me out in the fucking parking lot.
Your family's awful proud of you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm continuing to press charges on you, by the way.
You want me to be nice to you all there? You've been lying this whole fucking time. You've been lying the whole time.
He's got to be careful right now. It's not in court session right now, so.
Anybody can listen to this sellout place?
Yeah, see?
Good luck,
See,
because
they-
we're a
they're
military
arresting
occupation operation.
For a second.
You think I'm
Guys
fooling?
lie, cheat, and steal. They do.
Anybody thinks I'm joking? We are a military operation occupation. Period.
Oh, for
And
sure.
We've been for a long time.
Yeah, when they have to outnumber the
look
people.
Look up Derek Johnson's blueprint. It's got all the laws and orders right in it. All the executive orders by Donald J. Trump. Any enemies, domestic or foreign, or interference from domestic or foreign.
Not one person testified to behind the
So this place just sold the country out. Never
Oh,
mind
absolutely.
sold Frank out, but it sold the whole country out with it
Oh, for
because
sure.
it took our feet from under us.
New
But we're
Hampshire
not
needs
quitting.
help. We need help. We are being prosecuted by all of our...
Persecuted.
Persecuted.
We're not being prosecuted
We the people, we
because
need help.
that's due process is prosecution. Persecution
Trump is a thing,
is
and he did
attacking
those executive orders. We need help now. We can't wait another 5 minutes. Let's go.
I'm sorry. Okay, I get
Where's Frank? Is Frank out here?
You know what I mean? So yeah, so
Now that we're outside, shut it down.
they had, I'm going to appeal, yeah. So they had us scheduled for the bootlicker case today at 12:45 as well. So that legislative office building thing, I don't know what are they, now they get to continue it? No, that shit should be over with. Because they scheduled it at the same time and I was here and we had to do this case. They keep trying to ram that other case, but apparently they didn't want to go through with it today.
you doing the fine or what?
No, I ain't doing the fine.
You're gonna appeal first, and then appeal might take 2 years.
Appeal could take a little bit, but yeah, it depends.
There
Yeah.
was some back and forth about
So
something.
thanks everybody for coming out. I mean, I predicted this anyways. I had a feeling they were gonna find me guilty of one of the. I think I said it to somebody. I know I did. They're gonna find me guilty of one of the ones behind the curtain, but they can't find me guilty of the. So that's a lawsuit. The lawsuit is in. That was an unlawful arrest. These motherfuckers going down.
Thank you, Frank.
Going down. Thank you. Thank you all for your support.
Thanks for standing up
coming
for freedom.
out. And yeah, this is how we do it. This is how we do it.
ridicule these fucking fools. Okay, yeah, June 27th at 8:30 is Teresa's trial coming up.
I had no tap on the shoulder. June 27th at 8:30. I had no tap on the shoulder.
weren't there when Megan
And the video shows me leaving the room with my boys when the general warning happened, and it shows me coming back well after the general warning. So I never got a warning at all. So I don't know how they're going to justify finding me guilty, but
We need a class action once this is all.
we need
said
someone
and
to
done.
help us with the chilling of the first. Everyone who's seen any of this, anyone who's known anything about the story, you, J.O., you, all of you have had the chilling of your first. And we could do a class action. It's like $400 to file. We just need someone to help us write it and get it over the fence.
I'll try to use ChatGPT.
Not necessarily to win like millions of dollars or anything like that, but just to say, no, we're not going to be. I still go to the executive council meeting every 2 weeks at 10 a.m. simply because I refuse to say what happened to me on 10/13 is going to stop me from participating in the political process. This is the future of my boys. This is what my grandfathers fought for. Like, this is just not okay. So, this is not okay. None
Well,
of it's okay.
he didn't say I had to stay away from any executive council meetings. So.
Want to join me every other Wednesday?
Yeah, I got to see what's going on with this other case, though. Like I said, we're supposed to start that today, bootlicker thing. Emily was here to testify on that. Thank you. I'll keep you updated. I got your contacts now, so yeah, we'll see what happens with this next case, if they bring it back up or what. I don't know.
I don't even know how they justify tapping me on the shoulder and hitting me with zip ties.
Right.
Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, well.
And you're supposed to just be quiet.
Just supposed to lay down and die. Get in the boxcar. Get in the boxcar quietly, everyone. Cattle cars. Don't say anything, or you'll get a double dose of gas chamber.
Someone needs to make an inquiry on how we do air our grievances on those
Right.
kinds of things.
How do we air our grievances if we're not allowed to do it there?
We need to know that. What's the procedure?
Oh, we're allowed to clap and cheer and support all the things, but when you're like, boo, no, fuck that shit.
You didn't even like shut us down when we were clapping.
Right.
After your closing arguments, we were all clapping.
Why didn't we all just get arrested?
I thought for sure he was going to yell at us, but he let it go.
He did not.
Like he let it go. Everyone was clapping.
That's what happens when you got numbers on your side.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the numbers. The more we have, if everybody is doing that, like we did at the DHHS Vax Pass thing and at the St. Anselm thing, that's how you shut these things down. You go in en masse, everybody up in arms, and they can't arrest everybody, which is why they made it to where they could have arrested everybody that was inside that thing. That's 100% what their plan was. And we're going to, wait till the civil discovery comes up.
I didn't realize people were in the special section. I was right next to that section, and there were people in the press, and there were other legislators, and I think state reps included, that were in the special section right next to the public zip tie areas. The fact that you said that made it very interesting. It's all set up.
All is set up. I don't know what you can find out about that. How that was set up and all that.
I just don't understand who got to be on that side. Must
Right.
be legislators.
Ask about it.
Yeah.
Be like, I was there. I wasn't a rep at the time, but with it, yeah, I'd be interested to hear that.
All right.
So what are we gonna do? We gonna go out to lunch? I guess some of us. Taco tour Manchester. I hate the taco tour. But, yeah.
Yeah, reach out. Like, let me know. I'm gonna have to bring Teddy, so I don't.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Bum smoke coffee, bro?
Yep.
Where do you want to go, Frank?
I don't know. Where would be able to accommodate? Who wants to go out for lunch?
Are you paying?
He's homeless. You can't do
Whoever
that.
wants to decide, I'll go wherever as long as I got gluten-free option. I mean, what's the Red Blazer? We usually go to
Blazer. Yep.
Red Blazer.
Do it.
Red Blazer. We're going to the Red Blazer. It's right around here. Yeah. Robert.
Never heard of it.
Concise. Just kind of like boom, boom, point, point,
I
point.
tried. There was only so at this point. I dragged all that out. There's only so many points, relevant points that you can raise that
Although
are
the
like,
governor's statements seem very relevant.
the governor's statement seemed 100% relevant. He's talking about, you know, arresting people and were they arrested and anyways.
So, it's all bad.
The lawsuit, we got the lawsuit now, bro. Right? So we'll work on that. We're gonna work on that. Class action. Add in all the people that were there that have stopped going to meetings because they're afraid to go after that. There's a lot of people who have stopped going to these
Free
things.
counseling, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. You coming out? What are you doing?
I'm going to go with Red Blazer.
Red Blazer? All right,
I
yeah.
don't know where it is exactly.
All right, guys, thank you for watching Footloose's trial. As you've seen, he was found guilty on two of the charges, right? Two of the charges? And they got two of the charges dismissed. So he has a $1,000 fine and 1 year good behavior, but he won't be paying that. He's going to be appealing it and or serving jail to pay for that fine, as I would too.
Or the basis of the charge.
Yeah, they didn't have probable
That's what you're
cause
trying to
to
say?
arrest him in
Cause,
the first
the
place.
second one would,
Is null and void.
null and void.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why the judge made a point of saying that they did have probable cause.
Right.
Even though he was found not
But he's
guilty.
found not guilty. You can't have both ways.
Right.
Yeah, the
doesn't work
basis.
that way.
There was
That's
no
what they
basis
did
of the
with
original
the AG's
charge.
investigation from
Right.
September.
So-
We had probable cause, but we're not going to arrest it. We're not going to charge anyone. That's exactly the same thing they did. Now, however, Frank, even beyond that, okay, when you were protesting your wrongful arrest, okay, they cannot charge you for disorderly conduct for protesting, or they would have had to charge you with resisting arrest.
Right.
So they mischarged you.
Right.
But protesting,
So what's
arguing
the basis
arguing
of,
that would cost you more, not less.
What's the basis of the appeal at that point?
So the appeal is
He
going to
was
be.
never. He was found not guilty of.
The original
They
charge.
had no right to arrest him.
I was found not guilty.
They had no right to. They had no right to
I don't know
arrest
how to
him.
do
And the judge said it was based on anticipated behavior.
Right.
It's pre-crime.
Pre-crime shit.
That's
It's all pre-crime.
That was pre-crime.
Yeah.
They had probable cause to believe that you were about to do something.
Yeah, you were a bellwether.
Yeah, I was a bellwether.
Take the lighter.
I'm like,
The lighter.
interesting that they're using the constitutional comments.
Yeah.
But the judge really shut O'Leary down on the whole 3031A and all that stuff because the executive council is a member. They are members of the legislature. They're member of the executive branch.
Right. But they're elected representatives of us.
So they are part of our legislative body here in New Hampshire.
Well, when are we allowed to exclaim our displeasure and express our grievances?
Look at it this way, right? We elect people into our government. If we don't say something to them, silence is consent.
Right.
That's what they tell us.
Right.
We're doing this because nobody's told me not to do it.
One of the flaws is it's disruption, not silent protest. Silent protest at a meeting was perfectly fine, and the amount of cause or
Right,
problem
silent protest.
wasn't sufficient for the basis of the.
And the fact that they said, you clearly said yeah. No, he didn't. There was no evidence that he ever said yeah.
Right.
And it didn't say, well, I heard the
I wasn't charged with
and it
saying
wasn't
yeah.
him, and it wasn't him because it was on the wrong side of
It wouldn't have mattered because he was responding to the question of the officer, and he wasn't disruptive in that process anyway.
No. This was they're saying. So the interesting thing, Lavoie says he said 3 say it amen, and he said yeah when their backs were turned. Everybody else testifies that it was when they sat back down. So which is it?
I don't know what difference it makes.
It's a good question.
Yeah, quietly is not disruptive. I mean, it can't form the basis of it.
And the meeting, well, that's why they didn't find him guilty on it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. This place is corrupt. Clearly, the judge is corrupt. Clearly, the prosecutors are corrupt. And it's insane how this is all going down. New Hampshire needs a revamp. For sure. For sure. It's wrong what they have done. But Yo, man, you got a cigarette to bum off here?
Yeah. Free Talk Live.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
You all right?
Yeah, I'll take your leg. I'll borrow your lungs, too.
Yeah, man. Oh, what you listening to there?
Oh, this is Free Talk Live. You never heard of them? You can call in. You can say whatever you want, man. It's free talk, free speech.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Hell yeah, that's what's up. I'll check them out.
Thanks for the cig, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.